Just a few minutes, folks.
Crowdfunding. They've just done a recent crowdfunding, and anybody who invested 50,000, got a place on here. Yeah, 5,000.
I saw now it was on Instagram or something, or Facebook, and it's anybody that wants to invest with us, contact us, and just be like something direct. Yeah.
While people are away, look at the bottles.
I think it would be interesting because I had Loch Mask talking about Loch Mask. I tried much of their stuff, but it was a bottle in Palace Park. It's actually decent.
Yeah, especially because it's not. It doesn't become whiskey until August next year.
So good. Okay, I drank so much whiskey. It's such a great time. I brought back so many bottles.
Oh yeah, it's very good. I mean, I know I'm buying. Have you tried the stuff? Fluorized.
Yeah, exactly.
It was like third field bourbon because it's like pale as water.
Did I show you though? Did I show you the 4-year-old I got from
Yes, you did.
It was nice.
That's so. It was something like that.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
I got my money back.
Oh good. Yeah.
And then downside
No. Pastor O'Connell, you know what it was? Let me tell you. Because I'm never going to do this.
Yeah.
very, very. I want to go back to
But you have got on
Have their own
samples.
independent bottling site. Have their online website.
It's definitely good. If you are going, yeah.
Master Mod.
Nika and Suntory.
It's a boutique whiskey
I think
Douglas rang the
Their response is so like, oh yeah, it's perfect. That's just how it would be. Sometimes.
But hold on,
Dave is a good guy.
It's not Dave. It's not Dave. It's not I was like, there's no way. I said, whatever you get bought it for Jordan doesn't fucking exist. I have a refund. I bought them fucking a year ago. My money's been tied up.
Yeah.
A few of them. So annoying. And they were like, oh, if you want a credit loan. I was like, no, I don't want to fucking get up your phone. It's just so annoying. And then you think you're buying off a reputable company. Yeah. Oh, so annoying. Anyway, moving on. I have other sources.
Alright, good. You got it back.
Other sources that don't jump through office chambers. People know nothing about this. Huge company. I don't know. So it's really exciting after buying these bun and half.
That's the background.
I have to show you. That's hot. I would have asked you something. What you wouldn't say. Why would you say that? You don't need to.
Yeah. Big time.
Yeah. So that's my where my hand. There's one more person.
And one of the guys here, John, that are doing with O'Connell. Somebody was telling me about a guy named John who's doing with O'Connell.
Kevin, I just realized we didn't move your, sorry, we didn't move your taste.
no, it's they talked. It's fine.
No, it's okay. No, because I was going to move it up and John said, no, I'm only joking.
Oh, really?
You're on camera. You're on camera. You're still on camera. You're still very much on camera. There you go. He goes like quite wide.
table, that's very tight. There's a lot of, I don't know how we have 9 there.
All right, do we need to get... do we need to get some...
Yeah, so this will just clip off. There you go. And just toss it.
Yeah.
And then at the end, we'll just pop it off and into the thing and I'll turn off on it.
Cool.
So just intro, let's see it. Don't forget to send messages. You know, it's all one big
Yeah.
table when they're online, so they can message.
And
talk
we
to each
will
other.
get them
The QR codes, we'll put those into the chat.
Yeah.
And then we're just going to say something like, don't forget to put your tasting notes. Alex will write in the chat. He'll shout out the tasting notes to Donnie.
on Slido. Yeah, okay, yeah. All right, cool.
I like it, that's cashier. Probably next year. So give it to 500.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to try it.
We can talk in and you can just message me.
Yeah.
I know who you are. That's fun.
Do I clip up our mic?
Yeah.
I'm sitting here, yep. Is anybody there? No.
You just, it's actually easier for someone else to do. Testing. Is it on? Testing. Testing. Yeah. I got a championship haircut today too. Do you know that? Do you know what it said? Championship haircut from the GA.
Oh, right.
When the minor final will be on and stuff like that. Like
They'll all have...
the local county, they'll all be zip, zip, zip. Yeah, it's like when you're away from the kids and everything, it's like you have a bit of extra time. It's like, what can I do that I never have time to get done? Get my hair cut. That's why I'm so scruffy all the time. Because I just never have time to get a haircut. So I get my hair cut when I come to Dublin, or when I go to The Hague, or when I go to Munich.
All right, so there we know.
Swear, so I could be get my hair could be cut anywhere in the world. I don't. They're all listening to me online now.
You want a bit of that? That's Amontillado. That's the real deal now, Valencia.
Oh, nice.
Purebred.
Valencia. Can I have a taste? Can you break off of these?
Absolutely. Walk away.
Can I?
You need that?
Oh, it's not open. I'm not opening that one yet. Keep it, it said. All right.
Are we all here? Okay.
Very generous.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are delighted to have Daithi O'Connell here from W.D. O'Connell Whiskey Merchants, a different kind of whiskey maker, not a distillery, but getting back to what Ireland had many more of and was famous years ago of whiskey blending and bonding. I won't talk about that, I'll let Daithi lead on that. But for those of you at home, the tasting is going to be, the first three are the 10-year-old, the small batch 5, and then Bill Phil, after which we are going to take a break, and then we'll go on the last 3. The tasting mats here are different to the ones you have. Ours have W.D. O'Connell's QR codes for cask share and bottles, and we'll be putting that up on the feed for you to click into. So we've got a lovely range of products, and without further ado, I'll hand over to Daithi.
Thanks, Kevin. Good evening. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here. I feel like I must be making some progress. I've finally got my own tasting event on the IWS, so it's good. It's 5 years in, and maybe I think that's good. It's a good time to kind of to come and meet you guys.
tonight we have a nice lineup. We have grain whiskey, we have peated malt, and we have pot still, and we've got non-peated malt as well. So we've got a good selection. So as Kevin was saying, I'm Daithi O'Connell. I'm the founder of WD O'Connell Whiskey Merchants. We are bonders and bottlers, and we operate from our warehouse in Kilmacthomas in County Waterford. We started 5 years ago, as I said, at Whiskey Live in Dublin, 2019, and started off doing single cask expressions and then moved into batches pretty quickly, and now we release limited edition small batch whiskies and single casks, and from time to time, most of the time we're curating those casks, bringing spirit in, bringing aged whiskies into our own facilities or our own barrels before we had our own facility. And from time to time we do the traditional indie bottling side of things, which is I might be lucky enough to stumble on a part of the whiskey, we'll try some of it. And if we find a real nice kind of honey cask or unicorn cask, whatever, of a different style from a distillery that people aren't used to getting from that flavour profile from that distillery, we'll bottle it. Now, we've only been lucky enough a few times to do that, where we did one Bushmills, we did Brookladdick, and we've done a Kalila that have all been like that, and we've had one Cooley. So 4 times really that we've bottled something that we haven't had any kind of interaction on other than sending some money to somebody, which is nice. That's fine, and that's okay to do. But tonight, all the whiskies you see here, we've been curating them either from new make or from when they were 5 or 6 years ago in age profile. So bonding, I guess, in Ireland has changed a lot. Like, we were bonders, but we're modern bonders, as most bonders are now that are in Ireland. There's probably only 4 or 5 that are operating their own warehouses and controlling the whole process themselves. So it's still relatively small in that instance. Whereas historically, bonder would have been, a publican or a hotel, really, or a wine merchant or something like that, and they had barrels that they were reusing, and that's what we're doing. But we're doing it in a big warehouse as opposed to a store, I guess. And so that's what I'd say. It's a modern bonding operation. So we operate out of a 10,000 square foot warehouse on the Greenway in Kilmacthomas in County Waterford. That's halfway between Dungarvan and Waterford City. There we're able to do everything. We're able to refill, empty, filter, blend, bottle, whatever you need to do. And when we're not doing it for ourselves, we're doing it for other people as well. So it's kind of gives us an extra sales vertical in terms of revenue. It means we don't have to rush out whiskey too much, and we're not worrying about too much volumes of whiskey at this point. And we're laying down nice stocks. We also grow our own barley in a henny in County Tipperary. So it's just over the Cumberles from where we are, through past Carrick, into Faugheen, just around that area. And there, it's fantastic land. We've grown barley there for a few years with a friend of mine that I met in Hong Kong when I had a pub in Hong Kong. So he's a banker and a farmer. So it's kind of, yes, it's a hobby farm, yes, for sure. But they are farmers historically, and he's bought that for when he leaves banking. So we're growing barley there, and I'm heavily involved in that, in the selection of the seed type and everything, what we're trying to do. We've grown traditional spring barleys, and then we've gone on and grown winter barley, and we actually grew actual winter malting barley, as opposed to most malting barley in Ireland that winter is spring barley replanted. So it's the same variety, probably laureate or something like that. So we kind of experiment and things like that. And then we try and take that malted barley to other distilleries, small distilleries, not G&D or West Cork or anywhere like that. We take the small distilleries and we get new make distilled to our own kind of recipe, I guess. So if it's a single malt, we might do something different with it in terms of yeast, in terms of we might add a little bit more of a different type of malt variety in with it or something. And then pot still this year now we're doing for the first time, and we're doing our own mash in a distillery as well, which is nice. Non-compliant mash for anyone who's asking. I don't really like compliance too much. So, except when it comes to excise, of course, okay, Sandy. If anyone is watching. So so we're kind of trying to do a bit of everything, and from where we are, we can grow. We've got lots of space. I said 10,000 square feet, and we've got another 30 or 40,000 square feet of space and yards and space up the back, and then we've got a heritage building which is from 1850. We're on a workhouse, an old workhouse or poorhouse might be called, or a union house, depends on what part of the country you're in. And we've taken a wing of that, which is 7,500 square feet, and we're currently working on the plan with our architect to get that moving, hopefully next year. And from there, we're going to put office, mixed-use space, I guess, office space, traditional dunnage space for an dunnage experience, so you can come in and try different whiskies and different barrel types within the environment that they historically would have been in. But it'll be a very agnostic kind of view of whiskey, as opposed to brand centric. We'll talk about the history of whiskey, in going back to when it kind of started and where we are today. I suppose take you through that. Won't be much about me and where I was born and stuff like that. We'll have to wait till I'm long dead for that. So that's the plan there. So we've got big plans. Maybe a distillery. We're looking at a little site. We have lots of space on the site. So if we ever get the money and we're still crazy enough to do it, we might do that. But that's kind of a little background in the company. If anyone ever wants to reach out to us and come down for a visit, if they're passing, they're more than welcome. You just have to book in, really. We don't charge or anything like that at the moment. So it's just if we're around and we can facilitate you, we will. Okay? So if you want to get up close and personal with some casks. But yeah, so listen, the first whiskey tonight is our 10-year-old Bourbon Rye series. So this is a single grain Irish whiskey. And if you have the bottle, or if any of you are familiar with it, on the back of everything, we champion transparency from day one. So we name every distillery. So this one is named as Distilla Cooley Distillery. It is a vatting of 10 and 12-year-old whiskey from Cooley, grain whiskey. The 12-year-old we keep in ex-American rye barrels, and the 10 is kept in ex-American bourbon barrels first fill. Everything's first fill in these two. And we bottle it at 48%. So we basically, a vatting means we're taking a little of that 12-year-old, we're taking a little 10-year-old, and we're combining them together in a stainless steel tank before we bottle it and reduce it down to 48%. So this has been on the go now. This is batch 5, so it's on the go about 3 years. Pretty popular in Ireland. Jameson won't be shaking in their boots just yet, but it's going all right. And in the US, pretty popular. When you go to European places, they're very malt snobby, heavy, kind of like it's not for them. When they try it blind, they like it, but once they hear about grain, they don't want to know about it. That's the kind of thing. But we'll keep kind of knocking away at that. The reason behind this one was we had released a peated malt, which we'll get to later, and we hadn't got anything and we had some aged malts, but we hadn't got anything kind of a price point that we could appeal to people who didn't like peat or didn't like expensive whiskey. And I'm a big fan of grain. When I used to live in Australia, Hong Kong, United Arab Emirates, warm countries, and I drank a lot of grain whiskey, actually, on ice. And normally like it with a big piece of ice, because it's not really malt friendly environment there. You're not sitting by the fire with a big cozy jumper on you. And really got into it. Lots of the older Scotch grain whiskies that are actually distilled in the same methodology, because grain is very different in Scotland. Technically, you can anything that's not 100% single malt or malt whiskey is classified as grain. Okay, so it can be done in a pot, but most of the grains that you're getting from there are coming now from like the Girvan or North British and stuff, and they're done in the same way that we're doing them. 95.5 mash bills, maize, corn, bit of malted barley and column. And so I was seeing how deep flavour we had there. But mainly you were seeing expressions like 20 years plus, and they're really friendly to buy. And then when I got into the industry here, buying barrels, I couldn't believe that the 10-year-old from Cooley and the 12-year-old was so flavourful already. So I think it's an area of Irish whiskey that's very untapped still and has lots of potential. It's the largest style of whiskey produced on the island. It's the largest style produced in most countries, really, to be honest. And it's going to give us a lot more value for money for the consumer as well. You know, we don't have endless amounts of malt, and it'll take some time before we have endless amounts of aged malt, but we're kind of hitting, there's a lot of 20-year-old plus grain in the country now. There's a lot of 15-year-old plus. So I think it offers new opportunities for people to use it other than for just a blending experience. And I really like this one. So I see you've all probably started on it already. My serve with this at home, I was drinking them on last night, actually, is always with a big piece of ice. It brings out all the sweetness a little more. I like the chilled texture. I wouldn't necessarily ever have ice at malt. I'm not telling anyone how to do it, but I think with the grain it works really well. So lots of it, like you're getting lots of vanilla here, lots of caramel, honey, and you're getting that rye spice on the end, bit of coconut. And the reason I chose the rye was because I was looking at how blends are done with peated malts a lot, and you add a small bit of a peated malt to a blend, gives a nice length, gives a bit of depth, complexity. So I just thought, what could I do here? What kind of cask type could we use that would give us that without peat, of course? And rye was the one that came to mind. And we started off with very high levels of rye, and rye was just completely dominant, and then brought it back down. And we ended up down in single figures, really. So there's a single figures percentage of rye cask 12-year-old. Actually, this one is 13-year-old in this one. And we'll keep playing with that. So the batches will be slightly different, but I think this is probably the best batch of it we've done so far. There's nice depth through the profile. And I guess if you blind tasted it with a lot of people, they wouldn't pick out that it was a grain. Unless you're kind of an Irish whiskey nerd in Ireland, you might pick out that Cooley grain. But other than that, I think it holds its own, has got nice mouthfeel, a bit of complexity, but a very long finish. I hope you agree anyway. And if you don't, just pretend. It's fine.
What's the ABV on it?
So what's the ABV on this? The ABV is 48%. Yeah. So anyway, sláinte.
What do people think of this? Again, back home, do give us your tasting notes on Slido. But what's the general reaction?
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
The spices and the rye.
Spices and the rye.
Yeah, the spices, like the sweetness of the grain, you get this nice, very nice
Yeah.
brown sugar.
It's very sweet.
But then you get the
Yeah.
spices.
Yeah.
And almost like still with the length.
Yeah. There's quite a lot of texture on there for a grain whiskey, I guess. And I guess that's just kind of one of these things people say because they don't really know, to be honest.
For me, it's like a massive Werther's original toffee bomb. I mean, you just get that caramel and vanilla. I'm a big fan of single grain, as you know.
Yeah.
It's super balanced.
And when you add the ice with this, what it does is all the sweetness even gets just, yeah. Is that a dodgy video? So, put it away. I've heard about you. So yeah, the ice, instead of closing it down like we talked about, the ice opens it all up. If you look at it in the glass, if any of you have it at home, try it. And it just gets, and I don't mean small piece of ice because they'll just melt really quickly. You want that big piece with a much bigger ice to whiskey ratio. And you'll see all the oiliness coming out of it. And all the sweetness comes even more forward on the tongue. And it's hard to believe that you get more sweetness, but you do. But you don't lose the spice on the rye, which is nice. Because on its own, it'd be nice with the 10, with the bourbon. But it'd be a sip and it'd be gone. Like it'd be down your neck. You'd have to have more. We'd probably sell more that way. Maybe I'm onto something. But yeah, it's just very short finishes. And I think it's worked well, so I hope you enjoy it. Has anyone had it before? Yeah? Okay.
So the online folks say, lovely sweet nose, caramel, butterscotch, and biscuit, brown sugar. Palette has a nice spice, nutmeg, baked apples, and apple crumble. You should use this guy for notes.
Yeah. Sounds pretty good. Send those on.
You said that is the fifth edition?
The fifth batch, yeah.
You had started at a much higher amount of...
No, but when we released the first batch, I actually blended, and it's a vatting, right? But you are blending, right? At my kitchen table during COVID. My mum was staying with us, and she thought I had a very heavy drinking problem, which she wasn't wrong. But like, no, I started off like at about 30% of the rye, the 12, thinking, you know, you kind of when you get into this business first, think, oh, higher percentages of the better quality or the older whiskey might be the best thing to do, and it's not actually. Especially with grain, you can add 5% to something or 2% or something, and it makes a huge difference. So we ended up going back down and back down and back down, and then I sent out a batch with 20% to a tasting event somebody was doing. Can't remember online. There was one every night a week. So, and that's what I thought was going to be, and then Great Northern, and Brian Watts, Lord of Mercy, he was going to get the vatting ready. They weren't that busy back then as they are now, I guess. And he said, "Are we going ahead with that?" I said, "No, I changed it completely." And I changed the morning of the vatting. And I ended up with this percentage point. And then this year we increased the age profile because the stock is carrying on a bit longer, and I dropped it down another 1%, to keep the profile. But it's actually easier to do that, control that, than it is to finish, because it's not a finish. So the rye is mature, that's continuing to mature. The 12, 13, it started off at 10 in those barrels. And it is easier to do it. Like trying to get a finish right with the time of the year and the barrels and all that, it's pretty difficult. At small batches, I'm sure at big, huge volumes, it's pretty much easier. But I wouldn't know about that, so.
And how much of a risk was it for you going, you said 20%, you're down to 5 or 6%?
There's no risk at all, really. Like because every whiskey I release, like, is just if I like it. Because I couldn't stand here in front of you. I didn't really like the whiskey, and try and tell you about it, or try and go into a shop or a bar and ask them to stock it. So all the whiskies that we release are whiskies I would like to drink. So if I don't like it, it's not going in the bottle. And we don't do a lot of whiskey. You know, if I find something that works, like the 10 and the Bill Fill, we try and reproduce those and replicate them. There will be variants in them, and that's why they're batch whiskies. But there'll be, a single signature all along it. After that, then we release very small, like we've done probably 25 or 30 bottlings total in 5 years, which is not a lot. Like some companies are coming out with a bottle every month. And that's what I was saying earlier. We have these other sales verticals that allow us to kind of take our time, explore, take chances, and you'll see throughout these, that's what we're doing. You know, we're kind of, I don't have any experience in the industry at all up to the point I started the business. You know, I come from the background as a publican, nightclubs, did live music events, did, you know. Those days are a bit behind me now, I think, thankfully. And then, tried lots of different things, but like cooking, I'd be very interested in cooking still, and did hotel management to start. So flavor profiles is all we're trying to pair. Like, it's not rocket science. It's not, I always say at places, it's not Harry Potter. It's not, Hogwarts, witchcraft and wizardry. It's like cooking. You're just trying to find a flavor that matches with another flavor and see if it works or not. So anyone could do it if you have the patience. I think it's a practice, and I'm getting better at practice too, so that's just how it is. So the risk is nil to me, really, because I have to stand over it. My name's all over the bottle because of my ego, and and then you have to be able to stand up in front of it. So that's kind of it. Yeah.
You said that it's vatted in a steel tank.
Yes.
And
stainless steel, yeah.
Stainless steel. And is there a reason for that, as opposed to vatting in wood or in a?
Yeah, the products are all on their own. They're ingredients, and we just want to combine them, and we don't want any other influence on them. Yeah. So you could do it in IBC, food grade IBC as well. You could do it in a barrel, of course, but that has a risk of changing the profile a bit.
And does it need to sit for a certain length of time in the vat, or does it need to be added slowly, or is there?
Yeah, we don't. I'm not a gentle cut person. There's reasons, especially at small quantities. There's a science. There's contraction. Jack would probably be able to tell you about contraction if he's here somewhere. I don't know where he's gone. Because contraction can happen where if you're slow cutting small quantities, water molecules will hide behind alcohol molecules or ethanol molecules, and you'll actually lose more than you want to lose. So you'll end up using more whiskey to get to the same end point. So anyway, I know it sounds hard to believe, but technically you could have 100 liters of whiskey, add 10 liters, depending on the ABV. Now this isn't everything and where you want to bring it to. Add 10 liters of water and end up with 95 liters of whiskey. You could, yeah. Barrel types and things like that will have an influence. Where you start with the ABV has a big impact on where you want to bring it. So gentle cutting, the more you do it, the more your contraction will be and your losses will be. So I don't know if it affects flavor profile or not, because I don't do it. But yeah, that's kind of it. So we do all that on site now as well, and that's been great fun to do that. It's a really exciting industry to work in. It's very stressful. You know, you want your head examined getting into it, to be honest, but kind of past the point of no return at this stage. So we're in it for the long haul. Any other questions at the moment, or no? Okay, so the second one up is a recent release. It's the Fino 5-year-old small batch. It's a 50% ABV, and it's the first time we've worked with Fino butts. And this has been a really exciting project. So it's the second in a series of small batch whiskies. So the first one was an Amontillado, heavily peated. Fino was actually supposed to be first because I was trying to tell the story of Fino, and then you make Fino first, and then it becomes Amontillado after you break the veil of flour and re-oxidize it. But it wasn't whiskey maturation didn't follow my plans, so we had to reverse it. And this one is a really interesting and unique kind of whiskey, and I say that like really it is, because this is single malt whiskey from, before we even get to the flavors on it, this is single malt whiskey from Ireland, 3 different styles from one distillery, and there's not that many distilleries in the world that can claim that. Yes, it is G&D. It says it on the back. It's not Sherlock. So I'm only joking. And then we've aged them all in Fino butts that we sourced from Fernando de Castilla in Jerez, and it was in there for over 18 months. I think it was March 22 we vatted them. So it was well over 18 months actually. And we sourced the sherry butts. We specifically asked the G&D to get them for us from Fernando de Castilla. It's a nice bodega down in Jerez. And we're doing that because we want to control the flavor profile of the products we're building in the warehouse. So we're making sure that we get all those sherry butts from one place, basically. And we brought in a lot of Fino and a lot of Amontillado, and a few PX and a few Olorosso, but that's kind of it. We didn't go, no Palo Cortado, and kind of I feel I love PX, by the way. I feel there's a lot of all that out there, so it's like, well, let's try new things. I know how they work already. I'm an expert at this point. So, so yeah, it was really interesting to do it. And Fino, I do like a glass of ice Fino from time to time. I love sherry. I love the history of sherry. The history is phenomenal. Like, puts whiskey in its wake. Really, it's a really fascinating product, and I'd encourage anybody who's a whiskey fan to go on. There's amazing online courses you can do that are free on the history of sherry production, and buy a bottle of each of the styles and try them, because then you'll start seeing where the flavor profiles that you're always hearing about come from. So it's really worth doing. So this is Fino. This is the second in it. So it's a vatting of those 3 styles, all in Fino, all from one distillery, all the same age, all in the same sherry butts. So it's single distillery, single bodega. And we have different percentages again, vatting of double distilled malt, triple distilled malt, and triple distilled peated malt. Okay, so the peated obviously makes the smallest part. Triple makes the largest part, and double is kind of in the middle. And if you try them individually on your own, the triple it's drinkable, it's grand, The triple peated is fantastic. The double is like somebody stuck a vacuum cleaner in your mouth. It's so dry. It just sucks all moistness out of your mouth immediately. And it's not very enjoyable, but it's amazing when you put the three of them together. I think it's a really fresh, it's still dry, but it's still a very fresh, vibrant whiskey. Really nice mouthfeel. You can get the citrus notes there. They're coming in from the peated malt that we have. Lots of nuttiness, but it's not as dry. It's a little dry, maybe more medium to heavy rather than heavy, and it's a unique flavor profile, I think, as well. I don't know how many people have worked with Fino anywhere really, and there's probably a reason they haven't, because it's difficult. But it's been a really enjoyable journey so far, and I think we're probably going to do a cask strength peated single malt in Fino, because it's like the sweetness of the sweet peat from G&D that we have, that was in bourbon, meets this dryness, and they work really well because the sweet peat can take the Fino influence, which is quite heavy, even though it doesn't have a heavy. I think color is something that's associated with flavor and how intense something can be, and Fino is completely light, so it doesn't offer much in terms of color, but it offers a lot in terms of flavor profile, and it does dominate. Though that double malt and triple malt, it dominates. Like I wouldn't be doing a single barrel of that because it just wouldn't stand up. But as a component part, they're fantastic. Do you like it? Have you tried it?
I find that the peaty nature is just very subtle. It's like a liquor of peaches.
Yeah, and it's
really balanced.
And again, that's going to give you more length as well, and it's giving you a bit. It's bringing you a bit of sweetness. It's funny, the peat is bringing the sweetness into it, because the others, there's no sweetness left in them. Yeah.
How old is the oldest component?
They're all the same age, so they'd be just under 6 basically, but it's down as a 5-year-old, obviously. Yeah.
I think nuances, or even mature whiskey, just mature, with a strong floral note. Could that with a Fino house, be credible?
Yeah, and Fino does bring floral into it for sure.
Yeah.
There's a nice bouquet in that one, really creamy, buttery like. But it is amazing how the smallest component in there is actually driving that whole cocktail of different single malts. It's the smallest part of it, which is shaping the whole thing, which is what's really fascinating about, I suppose, what we do in our business and where we get to with flavor profiles.
How much is that?
€70. Yeah, it's available on our website. All good retailers. I think it's €70. Yeah, it's not it's limited to 1,000. 70 as well. Yeah, like we do from time to time. The price point can be a little eye-watering, but generally, anything that we're doing, we're trying to work within our own costs. So we just pass those costs on. So generally, we stick to the same pricing formula. So if the whiskey is coming in to us cheaper for production, the price comes down on it. We're not trying to gouge people. If we could do 10-year-olds for €40, I would. I think you'll see that. I think in Irish whiskey in general, you're going to see there's a lot of chat about rip-off whiskey. I think rip-off Ireland, but rip-off whiskey. But there's a huge cost base gone into all these places starting up their businesses, and they have investors that funded them. Don't forget that, and they're under pressure. But you will see the price point come down, especially as you see stuff when you start seeing 20 distilleries with 10-year-old plus, which won't be that far away. I think maybe 5 years, you'll probably see that, and that'll change the whole environment. And you can already see pricing coming down in some of the blends and things like that, and you're seeing older blends coming on the market, and so just give it time. We cannot catch up with established Scotch industry overnight.
Spain was Scotch a little bit cheaper, yeah.
Yeah, of course. Listen, they've got huge, but not all Scotches. That's kind of a misnomer too. A lot of Scotch blends are cheap, but a lot of Scotch single malt is not cheap. Like when I'm going buying barrels, Scotch is not cheap to buy, you know, and it's not rare, so it should be cheaper. But it's not. Yes, question.
Have you seen it affect your cask share program, like the fact that pricing is sort of either stagnating or marginally dropping?
No. Does the question is for those at home is, does this affect our cash share program and pricing? No, not at all. Like the cash share program is pretty much dormant at this point. It was something that we started. I was drunk at Christmas when I started it. It's like, how am I going to pay the bills in January? It's like, well, we have whiskey and we're not going to be bottling it for a while. So we're like, how can we release some of that equity in advance? And I have to say the Irish public were very, very supportive. But it was, it's limited to 150 bottles, 500 ml bottles. So generally most of them are sold. We only sell up to 120 and we keep 30 back for when we open our shop in the Heritage Building, when I have this historical kind of list of stuff that people can kind of get access to who visit us. And that's kind of it. So it was never, at the time it was amazing because it helped us out a lot. But now it's just something it'll phase out. And like people don't want to wait 10 years, but people did. 120 people want to wait 10 years for a Boan non-compliant pot still banned and mash bill. And they paid us when we were 2 years old, 10 years in advance for something that we could have been gone a week later. I was that close. I'm only joking, it wasn't that bad.
Whiskey cask.
Yeah.
So can you blend a Scotch whiskey and Irish whiskey?
You could, yeah, if you wanted.
What's the rules of putting that Irish whiskey?
You couldn't. No. And if you wanted a bottle of it, darling, we'd have to teaspoon it and bring it back and be a blended whiskey from Scotland then. So you could just put a teaspoon of something else into it and bring it over. But we bottle our Scotch in Scotland.
Okay. What's the percentage breakdown of the three different styles in it?
Can't tell you that. I'm very transparent on lots of things, but that's my IP, yeah. So you're probably looking at over 50% triple distilled malt. You're looking at less than 15% of the peated. There you go. Yeah.
And the peated is double or triple distilled?
That's triple. It's the same malt. It's the same bill fill malt that we use for bill fill. Yeah.
That's a good lead into the famous bill fill.
Yeah. So just for what do you think on the Fino? And I'm not precious. You can, if you don't like something, just say it. I don't mind.
It's kind of sherbet, effect on the mouthfeel for me. Kind of put that down to the peated component. Am I wrong?
Bit of clove spice, probably, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice, lovely.
Good.
Juicy and dry, which is kind of unusual.
Yeah. I think anyone who's new to whiskey might struggle with it a bit because it's a bit of a mind, But yeah.
It smells very, very different to what it tastes like.
Yeah.
Once you get that first taste over, then it's like, oh. But
the first one can be a bit. Oh, it's not. Do I like it? Do I not? That's why even I get that. Then you have the second one, it's great.
On the nose, it's very clearly Fino. You can get that on the nose.
Yeah.
And then that's what surprised you on the first sip. I got that sherbet kind of, oh, that's sweeter than I expected. It's not the taste of Fino. I love it. It's great.
Good.
But it was
interesting.
More than I expected.
I think that's what we want to try and create in whiskies now. There's plenty of the same kind of whiskey out there. So.
Candied ginger.
That's interesting. Yeah. I don't think I've ever had candied ginger, but I want to try it. I love. Yeah. No, I mean that. And I'm not joking. I'd love to try that. That'd be great. Yeah. So okay, if you're happy to move on to the next one. So next one up is Bill Fill. You can have a break in 10 minutes. Bill Fill was the first whiskey we released at Whiskey Live in 2019. We did a single cask of a 17-year-old from Cooley as well. But this is the first one. This is probably the the moment that I was so excited when I was visiting G&D to lock down my first order of casks. And I literally went up there to buy as many old casks as I could find. And I wasn't too pushed to try and get anything else young. I was trying to avoid buying anything young if I could. Because I didn't think it'd be any good, to be honest. You know, most stuff wasn't even 3 at the time. And I asked Brian Watts, do you have peated malt here by any chance? Because I do like peated malt. I got into peated malt when I was living in Hong Kong, at a bar in Hong Kong. And I was lucky enough that the Diageo rep over there was a good customer. And I got to taste a lot of great Scotch single malt and a lot of peated stuff. And, you know, I've stuff, I'm not a peat head that I love everything. I can't abide Lefroy unless it's 25 years old. If anyone has some. Things like that, I just can't. The medicinal, when it just gets on that medicinal side of things, I don't like it. So a lot of Kalila I liked, and some of the older Arbegs. I like the older stuff really. And he turned around to me and he said, "Oh yeah, we do. We did about a week of peated malt the first year, and we're doing another week of it this year." So that'd be a very small run at the time. And I said, "Oh sure, I'd love to try some." He said, "Oh, we're just using it for blending." You know, that was the attitude to it. And I tried it, and it was, I think it was just kind of like 2.5 years old. And did the deal, left. My brother was with me. They said, "You must be delighted with that coolie you bought." And I was like, "I am," but it said that peated malt, that's not peated malt yet. That's not whiskey. I think is phenomenal. I think I'm going to bottle that. And we bottled it at 3 years and 3 months, 6 months later. And I think that was that was a risk. Whiskey Live 2019, like it's not that long ago, that peated whiskey, people were going, Irish whiskey doesn't do peated, you know, and things like that. And, you know, historically, of course we do, you know, in a big way, and I'm not going to bore you with that. There's other people out there who can do that pretty easily. But it does historically, and you know, it brings back tradition, and it's a flavor profile. That's all. You know, ultimately, that's what it is. It's just another flavor profile. It's not the be all and end all, but it can be very interesting. It can be overpowering. It can be terrible. It can be great, like any whiskey. And you can see from the last whiskey how it can be such a great piece of glue to what I said are really two. Trust me, if you come to the warehouse, you can try them. They're two very poor individual components. But if you were to take them in a single cask kind of mindset on them, and then you put this peated malt in with them, and it just gels it all together. So that's what's exciting about it. But when I released it, it was a single cask in first fill bourbon. And then we did a batch in March, and we're on to batch 7 now. We'll do batch 8 shortly. And it's called after my great grandfather, who was Bill Phil. He was William Philip O'Connell. He moved in from, I think, North Cork or somewhere into West Limerick, and he wasn't related to those O'Connells, so they needed fresh blood. And they said, "Okay, you will be the Bill Phil O'Connells," to differentiate you, you know. And ever since, everybody in his family are called the Bill Phils. My grandfather was Jackie Bill Phil, my dad is Billy Bill Phil, all my uncles are Bill Phils. I'm a Bill Phil, but it's not called that. My name is all over the bottle already. This is about my great grandfather and my grandfather. They were blacksmiths, and they used to be engineers, real focal point of the village, but shoeing horses was part of being a blacksmith as well. They're not farriers on their own. And cutting turf. Tool for cutting turf, sorry. And the Bill Phil Shlán is a very well-known tool down in that part of where the 3 counties meet, Kerry, Cork, Limerick, just outside Abbeyfeale. And I just thought a bit of a hat tip towards that, because most of our whiskies don't have individual names when we were starting. We're trying to get into that space now, but you have to be a creative mind, or you have to pay a marketing agency, and I'm not that original. So yeah, Bill Phil, and it's been a really exciting project to work on. And we do use one continuous cask type, just again to keep the flavor profile. And one time I had to sneak in another cask. It was still a bourbon cask, but it wasn't from the same distillery, and it did change the profile quite a lot because we're doing small batches. So 1 of 3 or 4 is a big impact. It's a big percentage to change it. So we've gone back to that for this one. And it's getting old, it's getting a bit older, and we can see it's changing, so I'm going to have to try and figure out for the next batch how we can bring it back to being a bit fresher. I still love it, but I would like it to be a bit more raw, and if that makes sense, like to where it was originally. Because we do nice things with that bill-filled peated malt. Like I said, we have a 5-year-old there that's cask strength in rum, which is on the website. It's only on our website, and that's phenomenal. It's like, I love it.
Bill-filled with rum finish.
Yeah, it's rum for about a year and a half, I think. And it's cask strength. So, and then we did a bill-filled 7-year-old in Marsala, and it was in Marsala for 3.5 years. Like, and it's a phenomenal whiskey. So like, we just can't reproduce those things overnight, because I don't know when I'm trying them if this is going to be a good thing. Like, Marsala is pretty sweet. Like, I haven't tried putting the bill-filled peated malt into a PX cask because I think it wouldn't work. But the Marsala is sweeter than PX, I would say, in my mind. And it worked really well. And it 3.5 years, so half its life it was in that first fill Marsala. So we get to do fun things like that with stuff that doesn't fit the profile of the bourbon barrels that we use for the bill fill releases on their own. So we put them into those other, Amontillado. The first in the 5-year-old small batch was Amontillado, heavily peated. I didn't tell anybody it was heavily peated on the label, so a few people were a bit annoyed. But we kind of felt that it's a series, try it out. Peated, it might put people off, and then a lot of people actually really enjoyed it. And they said they don't like peated whiskey, but they wouldn't have bought it otherwise. So kind of worked, Gotcha. What are they going to do, sue me? The bill fill is bottled at 47.5%. It's a vatting of 4, 5, and 6-year-old at this point. And it is going to batch 8 this year. So you're on batch 7 here in your glass. It's a sweet peat. It's full of citrus notes. It's very creamy. It's nice mouthfeel. I know this one off by heart, but I will have a sip. It's been a.
Was this one of the first peated Irish whiskey? So in the past you had Connemara, right? That was the peat.
Yeah.
Was this the first or Bourbon Rye?
This was the first triple distilled. Sorry, the question for those at home and the question for those who are chatting in the back there. My father was a teacher. He'd throw the chalk at you. He used to throw it at me a lot. So that's a good question. The bill fill, was this sorry, say it again.
Yeah, was bill fill the first after Connemara?
It was the first triple distilled peated malt in Ireland in over 100 years.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I didn't distill it. G&D did, and Alan Anderson was actually the distiller there at the time, the Scotsman. And he was the one who pushed for doing it. Brian Watts wasn't in there at that time. Alan is over in Romania now, I think, doing whiskey. Yeah. So it was his vision to do it, and they didn't do a lot, and they didn't really do a lot, and they do a lot more of it now, I'll tell you. I think I own more of the 2016 single malt stock than G&D do, which is saying something. I wouldn't lay claim to any other whiskey they have, but yeah. So it'll be nice when it gets to 10. It'll be interesting to do a release of it then and see how it's come on in that time frame.
Is there a rough PPM?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the PPM levels, again, they're kind of things you have to kind of look at from the very beginning, pre-mash. The PPM levels are at the malted barley side of things, parts per million. This would be about 55 ppm. This stock is probably a mix of 55 and 50. The first 2 batches or 3 batches that they did were 55, and now they're all at 50. So this would be a blend of the 2 of them, but that's pre-mash, pre-distillation, post-distillation. All those numbers are going to be different. They're going to vary with cask type, age profile, cut points, everything. So I guess it's probably low teens at this point, I'd say, if you're to do that. But I wouldn't get hung up on that. I do use it to my advantage when I'm in Germany, Netherlands, Belgium, and I say, do you want to try a heavily peated Irish malt? And catch them on it. But don't get hung up. I'm telling you not to get hung up on it, but that's how you have to get them in over there. And it is. And then if you do drink peated malt from other countries, 55 ppm, like look at maybe an Ardbeg or a Kalila or a Lochendal from Bruichladdich, which is another one we did a bottling of. And they're all that kind of level. And then if you're used to drinking those and then you drink this, it's a complete other experience. And that's because it is triple distilled, you know. It's taking a higher ppm level and bringing it down, refining it, making it more approachable. And that's what's really great about this. This is very approachable and it's very enjoyable for people who love really strong smoky whiskey, and it's very enjoyable for people who maybe are a bit scared of smoky whiskies.
Where was it peated from? Where's the peat from? So is it Scotch?
It's Scotch barley and it's peated at Montrose in Scotland.
Okay. So it's not Irish peat?
No, it's not. G&D wouldn't be able to use the production of Irish peated malt is so small. G&D wouldn't be able to use that yet at this point, I guess. There is new maltings coming in up in County Down, which might be able to kind of get there, but I don't know. It's and then you have the whole thing with using peat. So I guess we actually are lucky enough to we have a bill-fill bog, which we don't use. We haven't used it for a long time. So we might end up having to maybe source or get our own barley and our own peat. But again, the peat would be different too, you know, different parts, different types of bogs. We won't get into the terroir debate, but obviously it does exist. So there's no point in, you know.
For that whiskey from here to here.
Yeah, from here to here, absolutely. Yeah. So who doesn't like peat? Who doesn't like peat at all? Okay.
Generally not, but that's good.
Yeah, you like that? Yeah. Well, look, like honestly, I just felt this was probably the easiest one to make because we found great distillate, good fresh barrels, and one from one distillery that we just use, and we just repeat it. So it's pretty straightforward. So we're lucky, you know. Hats off to the.
I poisoned myself on a trip to Ireland for 10 years ago. Couldn't look at anything peated or couldn't smell any of those like heavily peated.
You can overdo it for sure, yeah.
But I overdid it.
So yeah, if there's any questions, yeah, great. I'm glad you're enjoying that. If there's any questions or yeah.
What do people think generally? Sort of comments on the different flavours. I mean, it's certainly a sweet, smoky, not a dry smoke. Any other comments?
Like chocolate and coffee, like really like dark coffee, and then it gets almost tobacco. So it is quite nice.
Definitely tobacco. This one is more tobacco, this batch, than the previous ones, I'd say. Yeah.
So funny enough, the guys online, the 5-year-old cast-strength rum is amazing. Mm-hmm. And then he follows up, he doesn't like peat.
Now that's an interesting one because it's cask strength, so it's going to be less smoky. So the more water you add, the more smoky it gets.
Oh, because this is
yeah. So cask strength. A lot of people who don't like peat like cask strength peat.
Especially the flavours kind of come in layers. I wasn't keen on the nose. I've never tasted this before, and I wanted to. The nose. Flavour, oh yeah, interesting. And then third, then the smoke comes.
Yeah.
So I didn't think the smoke was too heavy initially. I think there's a lot of length on it, and then that lovely kind of smokiness.
Yeah, no, you raise a really good point there because I think nose is something that's important, right? We're told is very important in whiskey, and it is obviously, right? But if you're trying to make a whiskey, what's the most important thing? If you have to sacrifice something, what do you want to sacrifice? It's always going to be the nose. So yeah, if you add more water, and like I did cask strength stuff, and people say, oh, if you add water, the nose opens up brilliantly, but it takes away from something else. It will take away. And that might suit you, or might suit me better, or whatever. But that's what happens. So I will always, when I'm going through them, I will always sacrifice nose because you can.
You're nicely surprised.
Yeah.
You're not immediately captivated by the
Yeah.
nose, and then you taste it.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So it sets you up nicely.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's completely the opposite, isn't it? Again, like the Fino. And you'll probably see that in a lot of my whiskies, actually. It's probably because it is the nose that gets the first chop. Okay, so yeah, if there's any other questions, we can. If not, we can take a break. If there is, I can.
If we were to buy this from your website, people have been asking, is there a discount or something?
No.
I'm asking for a friend.
I didn't bring any discount codes, but I could obviously send one out if you want. I'd get one set up.
Yeah.
It won't, but it won't be tonight. It won't be tonight. Which one are we on here? Sorry, 70 again. Yeah, and it's available. Of course, like we don't push our website a lot because we want to support our retail partners. Because without the retail partners, we really, they're giving us their shelf space. They're giving us their shop front. So we tend not to do a lot online. We don't push it. The website is a reflection of that because it's just too much work. But we do encourage. I'm very happy for you to buy off us online. But I also want you to buy in, your local shops and stuff like that as well. Because without them, we really can't get growth, and shelf space is really important for us. So, yeah.
25% do it.
What was that?
25% do.
25 cents. Yeah. All right, so how long are you taking?
Okay, so we take a 10-minute break.
Okay.
At the table.
I like having it there.
Yeah. Okay.
gives me trust crossing the bottle straight away.
That's what we went for. Our designer will be delighted to know that.
No, it really does.
It's like a label, it's a contract.
It's almost like if I was going into a pharmacy, this is the medicine I call.
We talked about that when we were designing it.
Okay. That was and just a reminder that the Amontillado and the Olorosso are.
So we're switching them now, isn't it?
No, we're going to do them in the order. For online, they do Olorosso. They do Amontillado first.
Yes.
So we're following this.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, take your seats for the second half. Over to you again, Doug.
Thanks, Kevin. Okay, so we are moving on to the business end of the season. We're going cask strength for the last three. And we've three styles. We've got pot still, grain, and malt. Okay. For those of you at home, we're doing the Amontillado SPS now. Okay, not the way it's on your sheet. So the Olorosso will be after this. Okay.
Johnny, can I just ask, the three of these are available to purchase right now?
No.
No.
No. The number 4, the Amontillado SPS is not available. It's a cask pull. Okay. So there will be some coming probably the latter half of the year.
So watch out.
It'll be under the name Tamáisín, which is called after where we are in Cuil Vic Tamáisín, which is Gaelic for Kilmacthomas. That's what the English said it was, so. That's it was not Kilmacthomas, but yeah. So we call it Tamáisín, which means like small Thomas basically, or little Thomas, or yeah. And the next one then after that is the 2009 Grain Olorosso. That's a cask share, which will be coming available at some point because it's a sherry butt. But the cask shares are all sold out, I've been informed on it. All of them are sold out, so there you go. I didn't know that. That again will be released at some point as a release in the next 12 months. And then the last one is available. And you're the first people actually to get access to the last one tonight. Tomorrow it'll be going on sale. So it's on there tonight and it's very limited. It's very delicious. So that's it's a fun label. It's not a kind of a, I'll tell you when we get there. Stop. Don't be distracting me. Okay, so is that okay? Okay, super. So the Amontillado SPS. So single pot still Irish whiskey from Great Northern Distillery and distilled in 2018. So I think it's actually 6 now since it was pulled before the samples went out. It just turned 6 actually in the last few days. And it's been in a sherry butt from Fernando de Castilla, an Amontillado sherry butt. Okay. And Amontillado is the next step, as I touched on earlier, after Fino in development of that sherry wine. So the Fino is created. There's a veil of flor, which is a yeast covering over the top of it. It's a crust, basically. They break that and they further oxidize it. And then it becomes Amontillado. So you get less dryness, more nuts, basically. Okay. Bit more intense flavor profile. Really, really exciting style of sherry to work with. I'm a big fan of it. First got into it when I was in Hong Kong again, drinking a Taiwanese single malt from Cavalan, a Cavalan Amontillado. And I was like, when I do whiskey, I'm going to do this. And we have a lot of Amontillado butts in the warehouse now, so you'll probably see a lot of Amontillado. And it is a rare style. And again, the butts we're using, they're not seasoned, and I'm not taking away from seasoned. We're looking for stuff that we can work with for a long, long time. And they're really, really high quality product. I think if anyone's passing, come have a look at them, and they're beautiful pieces of craftsmanship as well as anything else. And the flavor profile we're getting here, I get a lot of hazelnut on this. It becomes more almondy as you get into the Olorosso. I think roasted hazelnuts not green hazelnuts, is definitely a strong component. This lovely mouthfeel, and then we've got all that SPS flavor profile coming in. So it's in there over 2 years. It's nearly 2.5 years now in those sherry butts, those Amontillado butts. So it's coming on nicely. We did a previous release when I think last November for Barry Chandler's his online group Stories and Sips, and he picked one of the 5-year-olds. So you're having an older version of one of those, not the same one exactly, of that product. And we haven't done a lot of pot still, and again, pot still takes time. You know, we released a few single barrels of machine so far. We did a peak cask, which I loved. We did that was a 5 at just over 5 as well. We did a PX cask, which is a refilled PX from one of our PX series. And then we did Barry's. We did another one for Barry, peak cask, and the Amontillado. He did 2. So we took a break from doing Tamashine last year because Barry was doing those 2, and I felt I didn't want to be trying to take away from his releases when he was doing them. So we'll be back this year with Tamashine. I think we have some nice stuff there. Again, we have some in PX as well. And we've got some of the older 8-year-old pot in refilled PX, which is coming on nicely. So we'll have to see. We'll make a decision probably in September, October. I lie, we'll probably make it in November and rush it out for Christmas. That's kind of how it works. You think you're going to make it all these plans ahead of time, and things change. So this is coming in, I think, about 50. Is there a percentage on it actually? Yeah, I was going to say 57. So yeah, 56.8. So it's dropped 0.2 in about 10 months. It was 57 10 months ago. What do you think?
I love cask strength whiskey, but another reason why I like it is the ability to be able to play with it. And a few drops of water just seems to lengthen it out. It's really lasting a lot longer, I think. I agree. With a drop of water, that's
good.
Tasty. That's genuine taste.
That's good. Yeah, the Tamashines we've done, I've brought them all down to 50, 51. So none of them have been cask strength because I did feel, so it's interesting that you picked up on the same thing.
Is this available? No.
Is it available? No.
Is this 50-50 or like what's the management?
This is 2018 G&D, so it's a 50-50 mash bill. The 2016 and 2017 was 68-32 mash bills for the nerds here.
The texture on it's fantastic. It's almost like there's a chew to it. I know that's probably not good, but there's a lovely kind of...
No, you can eat that. Yeah.
Oh, it's delicious.
Yeah.
Marzipan. Do you get so much marzipan?
Marzipan's a great note for, again, almonds, and to do with almond as well. Like,
Yeah.
it's good. But it's come on a lot. It's. I actually haven't tasted this since 6 months, so it's come on really well, I have to say.
People are saying online that there's apple dusk in the nose, a bit of cinnamon, nutmeg, the palate, lots of milk, chocolate, burnt hazelnuts, and wafer biscuits. And then they say it's a short finish, but like I said, maybe add a bit of water, add those lines a bit.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's going to be nice. So, again, I wanted to try. I don't try and do the same tastings all the time with bottles that are in shops and stuff because, you know, I want to try and show you what's to come and what we're working on, and give you a better experience than just the usual kind of off-the-shelf stuff.
So this is not available.
No.
This is a cask draw.
Yeah. It's filtered as well, but it's cask draw, yeah.
And it'll be what liquor adjusted down to the Tamashine.
I don't know. I won't know until I work with it, but I imagine I will reduce it because that's been what's so far. But actually, tasting it now, I like it a lot. So, but I will go through the process. So the process is the process when you're selecting is you go through it, and what I do is I just reduce down by about 1% every time, make notes on it, see where I like it, bring it all the way down. Might bring it down to 38, 37. I know that's not whiskey anymore. Just to try it, see what notes we're getting, things like that, and then bring it, and then see where the range we're liking. Cancel out what we don't like, and then start doing it again. It's tough. Can't do it for a day at a time. No. I tried. It's. So that could take me depending on the sample size I'm working on. So first of all, the first thing I'll do with a barrel is if I don't like the barrel and cask strength taste, I won't bottle it as a single barrel. That's the first thing I do. So it won't. So then narrowing down a cask is really easy. I don't even bother getting into the notes on it. I just go, do I like it first? If I don't like it immediately, I don't go down that route. Then when I do pick it, then I will actually go through it to see where it sits best. And I've done single casks where they're not cask strength, which is again kind of bucking the trend, I guess. But I don't feel that should be, cask strength should be the mark of a single cask. It should be what's best for that single cask. So it means it's very good at cask strength. But is it better at 48 or 52? Or if it is, then that's what you should present it at. You know?
And is this just your opinion? You're the man, you're the vote, or is there other people?
Yeah, I am definitely. I'm a hard man to. I'm unemployable. That's what I've been working. I've been working for myself a long time, since pretty much, since I left school, pretty much. So.
And Brian, I think you can blame me for these samples, because when I spoke to Doc about doing a tasting, I said, look, our members like something different that they can't get anywhere else. So I think to get these deconstruction samples,
it's good, isn't it?
But also
come on a lot.
Do give feedback to Dobby on these samples.
I have to ask about this. I mean, this is spectacular.
It's good, isn't it?
Normally cannot buy stock. I mean, at what point do you go, do you know what? I don't need to do any more. Or is there a point where you go, I don't need to do any more with that, I just need to put it in a bottle and say.
Yeah, you can do that. Like, we're not in a position really that we can just leave stuff lying around and see what happens. And I think whiskey, my feeling and what I've talked to a lot of people that have been in the industry for a long time all over the world, and the general consensus, it's peaks and troughs. It's not this linear change and maturation just because it's in there longer. And you might find that something is like right now, that's a good time to bottle it. Like, when's a good time to bottle it? When it tastes good. It's a 500 litre sherry butt that was filled two and a half years ago, so a lot. Well, a lot for my standards. Like, we'd probably be up around 700 or 800, I suppose. Yeah. Yeah. So like but it is. I'm really surprised. Like, I'm experiencing that with you guys tonight because I haven't tried it in about 6 months, and it's come on a lot. Like, Barry's selection was really good. I liked it, and I think this is at cask strength. It's really good compared to the previous machines we've done. But it has, again, it's in sherry for 2.5 years, and it's only, it's coming on to 6, so it's in there quite a while in a really, really high quality piece of wood, like, and that's what's really important to it. So I'm excited about that one now for later in the year. I think it'd be a nice autumn Christmas release. Yeah. Any questions on that? Any questions on the Amontillado, or have people drank Amontillado style whiskies? I think you're going to start seeing a lot more of them. There's a lot of people, I think, starting to bring in Amontillado casks now as well.
Feeling Amontillado cask. Hold on.
We did it, but it wasn't called Bill Phil. Were you listening earlier? Wasn't listening, was he? Don't tell him. Don't tell him. It was the small batch Amontillado cask. The first one is peated malt in Amontillado. Not the one you had tonight. The first release we did. Yeah. Which is still available. I was in Celtic and James Fox's today, and they still have it.
Any plans for a new machine?
The one we just had. Again, not listed. Yeah. Will I just repeat the whole thing again? No. The memory of my father will live on. Yes.
You wait another 4 or 5 months that it won't be as
No, like, is there a danger we'd overdo it? I don't think in that time frame. Like over time, you certainly could. And some styles of whiskey being something that's over sherried happens a lot. Now, in Ireland, not a huge amount. A lot of Scotch is over sherried because they've just got so much of it. And you can get that's just, you wonder, like, were they pouring sherry into it? No, that said, I do actually have a barrel in the warehouse that we bought. It was a Cooley, it was a 15-year-old Cooley we bought in a sherry butt. It was actually a cream sherry, a Harvey's Bristol cream sherry butt. So cream sherry is made of, it's a blend of sherry styles, yeah? So I didn't know it was a Harvey's Bristol cream sherry butt when I bought it. I was told it was an Olorosso butt. There's a lot of that goes on. And then we got it and it was like, no, and then it was like, it looked amazing, smelled amazing. So we talk about how your senses can deceive you. And then if you saw it in the bottle, you'd probably buy it immediately. You'd be like, oh, it's 15, and now it's 18 now. But we had to empty it out and put it into second fill bourbons that we had emptied from double malt that had malt in them as well. Because it was like struck matches on the tongue. Like imagine you struck a match and then put it out in your tongue, sulfur. So that's over sherried and with a poor quality sherry butt too, to be honest. But it has given it a lot of really good profile to it as well, and we can see now the bourbon is bringing it back. And like, ultimately, bourbon barrels are just the glue that hold the whole industry together. So they're really amazing, and the second fill it's bringing it back nicely. So it's interesting to see that.
Just a really broad generally, how often does it happen that, not just with yourselves but with others, that they overdo something and they have to ditch stuff?
I have no idea. I honestly, I wouldn't know. I don't make mistakes. So.
We want to yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Alligator char awareness.
Yeah, alligator charby. Yeah, we're recharring some second fills we have at the moment, and we're going to do them alligator. I like that. It's good. Gives us, because we're using alligator char in a blend we have. It's coming out. I didn't bring the blend today. I know you're all very snobby, so. Jack and I are not snobby about these things, but other people are.
Is that what you'd see as being the keynote of Amontillado, is kind of the roasted kind of hazelnuts, or is that distinct to the whiskey itself?
No, I'd say the marzipan is probably more prominent. Depends on how much you're getting into it, and obviously you've never eaten hazelnuts, and I eat a lot of hazelnuts in chocolate, as you can see. So it just depends what you're influenced, but I think it's very distinctly marzipan, definitely for sure. Yeah. And the nice creaminess that it's given to it. And obviously it's a pot still, it should be a bit creamy anyway, but that's a kind of a common thing that's put out there, but I don't know how common creaminess comes. Like I think if oats and stuff are in there, you get a lot more creaminess than that, but the sherry definitely adds a lot to it. And again, because it's a young pot still, it's really good distillate to work with, but again, if you had that 6-year-old bourbon cask, it's only, I would say it's good, but it's not, it needs something else, I think, at that age. But when it gets to 7, 8, it seems to pick up a good bit. Like as I said, it's not linear, it kind of can take jumps. That's what I'm seeing, but that's just my experience so far. Yeah.
For the same, so it's not related to the Amontillado, but for clients that you would have like special projects with, or bottlings or whatever, would you always have that whiskey on site, as in like that you would be holding on? No, so you would have some whiskey maybe that comes in and is literally just bottled in.
Yes.
In your production.
Yeah. So the question for those at home is the whiskey that we would do for private clients or that always on site? No, it's not always on site. Depends on the style. All our grain whiskey is kept off-site, all of it. We only keep malt and pot still on site. And generally for clients, I'm pushing them towards grain as much as I can. because I do want it out there, and I want people that it's good to get. You know, if you get a retailer who's doing a few cases a year of your product, and you can get them then to buy into a cask of grain. Now they're an advocate for 40 cases of that one product, and that's been working. We've done it in Boston successfully. We have a retailer there took 2 casks. One was an ex-Lefroy cask actually, and the other one was a Madeira cask. We've done number 21 off license again. We do Madeira cask for them. That was a 10-year-old. They don't have a website, and it's one of the best grain whiskies I've ever had. And I know obviously I was part of it, but it's just rich luxury. You wouldn't know it was a grain, but it's 62% or 63%, and it's really, really good. And he still has bottles of it because he has no website. He's been building it for 2 years, but he's actually John Kelly's his name, and I'll put anyone who signs up to our website, I'm going to send out a newsletter. Kind of send out once a year, I think. The marketing department are terrible, and
Is the marketing department you?
pretty much when they're not driving the forklift or doing HR. So John Kelly owns Number 21 Off License Group. They're Munster based. They're 13 small stores around, in regional towns really outside of Cork and Waterford. Everything else is regional, like Listowel and Clonmel or Carrick, but he has a great selection of Irish whiskey. And they're wholesalers, Kelly's wholesalers, and out of Tiptown. But he has a phenomenal private collection of Irish whiskey. He has all the Middleton Silence, a full Middleton Rare collection, everything that you can think of he has. And he's actually opening up a whiskey tasting room in Cashel, across from the Cashel Palace. So, and he's going to put on events where you can go in and drink. Like, the tickets won't be cheap, but you're talking 12, 15 people in a custom built room with all of these bottles around you, and then you'll be able to, he's opening like pearls and stuff for it. So it's going to be really interesting to see. So, and you can just stay at the Palace, and
Of course.
or John Lahey's, whichever. Oh, that's Cashel, isn't it? Yeah, so any questions on that one? Or I think we all liked that one, did we? Yeah, good. Okay, next up is a grain. Go back to grain again. 2009 grain. So 15 years old. And it's in a refill Olorosso sherry butt. Okay? Now, the Olorosso sherry butt, it's a 4th fill that it went into. Yeah, and it's from, if anyone remembers, and anyone who was following us back then, it's from the 12 and 13-year-old Bushmill single cask I did. So it's that sherry butt. That was a 3rd fill when they filled it, and it was full maturation Bushmills. Then we emptied it. I was like, I'm going to put grain into this. So I put a 12-year-old grain into it 3 years ago. And now we have 15-year-old grain in it.
That grain was bourbon, was it?
That grain was first fill bourbon out of Cooley. And only people who have ever tried this are people who come to the warehouse and you. It's a cash share release. I was told tonight they're all gone, so sorry. There's some, like cash share is 120, 150 bottles. Next year or the year after then, maybe we'll bring this out. We might hold on to it till it's 18 in there or something. I don't know. We'll see. Play the long game. We might play that game where we see what happens with that one. Because grain is a bit cheaper to do that with. And I think that's what's exciting about grain. And then you can put grain into your 3rd or 4th fills and you're going to get a lot out of them. And you can put it in there for a long time and you get a lot. Grain is like chameleon whiskey. It'll take on the flavour profile very, very quickly. Which, when you're blending, I think a lot traditionally blends, like they were using a bit of malt sherry, different types of sherry and malt. And now I think there's a turn, and I know we've been doing it, we're using grain finished whiskies with bourbon malt, because the grain is taken on the flavour profile and is given more back to the blend actually. So you're not just doing 95% bourbon cask grain whiskey, with 5% malt whiskey, you're actually using different types of grain, finishes with malt, bourbon. If that makes sense, yeah? Because it's actually giving you more depth, which I find anyway. 63. So that would have come. So grain whiskey, I was touching on that earlier. Grain whiskey in Ireland, it's made from corn or maize, traditionally. Obviously, wheat would be something that we grow in Ireland, and there's a few distilleries starting to use wheat. I think West Cork use exclusively Irish wheat. Royal Oak Distillery, I don't know, maybe there's others. There's not that, there's not a huge amount of column stills in Ireland anyway. And it has to be distilled in a column. It can't be in a copper pot, okay? And it's a 70%, it has to be no more than 30% of malted barley, I believe. It has to be at least 70% grain. So, as I said, it's the most common style. It's generally used for blends. But as you can see from the ones we had tonight, it has a lot to offer. And I think it has a good future, and especially as it gets older and older, it just continues to get really, really drinkable. Because it's really clean distillate, right? Ultimately, it's the cleanest whiskey distillate you can get. And it's taking in everything the wood will give it. So if you put it into good wood, you get a good result.
When you say it's the cleanest distillate you can get.
For whiskey. Yeah, it's not vodka.
No, what do you mean by that?
I don't know. Like, I don't know how to explain. Like, I guess it just has less.
Are you talking about you're keeping more of the middle parts of the distillation, or are you talking about
Jack. Nerds. I'm just joking. I actually don't know, and if I don't know, I won't bullshit you. So the question is why my statement was that grain whiskey out of the column is the cleanest distillate of whiskey that you can get in Ireland. And the question is, why is that?
Because, okay, these massive big columns, and you're distilling. So okay, you have pot still, right? So pot still, you throw it all in, you get a whole lot of stuff. But you're on a column. It's it's 5 stories high, and you distill. So as you distill in a column, all the compounds layer out. And when you get up to, I think it's about plates 84 or 85, it's really clean because you've left all the other compounds down below, and that's why it's so clean. And usually, say Irish distillers, I don't know anybody here from Irish distillers, but they have a huge plant, and there's one plate you take off your neutral spirit, and that's for vodka and gin. And just about 2 plates down from that, then you take off your spirit for whiskey, because you just want a certain number of compounds in it.
Yeah. Thank you, Jack.
In a pot still, it's the middle part that you're after.
Yeah, when pots, you can imagine, column still is 5 stories high. Not only that, but you have 3 of them. You start off with a beer still, you have the purifier in the middle, and then you have in Scotland there 2. In Ireland, all the guys are using 3 stills because they want their columns to produce neutral spirit and then produce spirit from their whiskey. You can imagine a pot is relatively tiny, and you throw every stuff, a whole pile of stuff in there, and you distill it. Okay, you wash, say, double distilled pot, right? You start off in the first pot. All you want to do is just recover the alcohol. And you go down to West Cork and see how quickly they can recover the alcohol. I think it's like about 15 seconds or something. And then your second column, or your second pot, is where you take it easy and you want all that contact with the copper. And you take off your heads, and then you take off your middle cut, and then you take off your tail.
Now, are we lucky to have a man like Jack with his knowledge in the room? I missed that now, sorry. Now, so there, like, I could have told you that, but I wanted to test Jack's knowledge. No, I'm only joking. So essentially, I was saying there's some difference then in Scotch, kind of single grain too, or grain whiskey, but generally nowadays nobody's kind of dumping, non 100% malt product into pots, I think, anymore in Scotland, are they? very few anyway, if any. Which is technically that's pretty pot still when you think about it. But we won't go down that route, and we won't start talking about GIs and things like that. So the grain Olorosso, as I said, it was the Bushmills release that I did 12 and 13 refill, so 4th fill. But we're getting a lot of those Olorosso characteristics still. And that barrel has been in use, that was in use in Bushmills probably first fill for a short, maybe a year or so. And then it has pure malt written on top of it as well. It's one of the old butts, and it would again come from a bodega with a non-seasoned cask supply. Then it was used again maybe for 3 or 4 years, and then they put new make into it and left it there. And then I was lucky enough to buy one of those barrels. And again, that's that kind of honey barrel you get. And anyone who's tried those 12 or 13s of the purple label, they don't taste like Bushmills that you know. And that's the great thing about what we do in this business is me and other people like me, you're trying to find those barrels that are just stand out. They're not going to be the same as everything that distillery is bringing out. And I think if you put new make into a first fill, it gets overpowered. I have some pot still in Olorosso, and I think I remember I brought it to Whiskey Live 5 years ago, and it's been since discarded and put back into bourbon, but it was just Olorosso matured, and that was really not 5 years ago. Nobody was able to taste that kind of thing, and everyone was like, when are you bottling it? I think sometimes tasting things at a small sip at these events and and especially when they're new and exciting can be really great, but trust me, you would not want to drink a bottle of it. Because I tried it with a few friends one night, and that was like I'm never bottling this. It was just too much, It was just too much Olorosso. Yeah. So this is 63%. So what do you think? This will definitely take water. That's for sure.
A little drop, much more sweet, much more like almost creamy. Like it became thick.
It's got a lot of woody spices for me that you'd expect from a bourbon cask. I'm getting cinnamon and nutmeg.
Well, it's been bourbon for 12 years.
Bourbon for 12 years, yeah. But it hasn't lost that.
Is this available, or will it be available, or?
No, again, not available right now. It was on our cash share program, so anyone who is one of the cash shares will be getting it later this year or early next year, I'm not sure.
So whenever your store opens up on site, you'll be the first person in the door and buy one of the 30 bottles.
Well, no, we will bottle the rest of it, but it might be next year or 17 or 8. I might I'm kind of thinking to leave it till it's 18. I'm not sure. Yeah, I might take the chance on this one. Yeah.
I don't know if anyone would agree here, but from the nose, first of all, for me, for some reason, it's like a old militant single cask. Yeah. And then it kind of follows through for the taste. That's what I'm getting off it, hardly enough. I don't know if anyone would agree there.
Well, there'll be a lot of grain in those old Middletons, so
yeah,
they're blends. People forget Middleton Rare is a blend.
Yeah.
So there's just lovely citrusy marmalade.
But if you still have some of the 10 from the first one in your glass, you will be able to see where it came from. It's still very distinctively Cooley grain once you know what Cooley grain is, I think. But it's pretty drinkable at 63%.
So this was supposed to come out in July this year.
Yeah, it's not though. Because it shouldn't have been. I think it should have been for July next year, but I think it was just mislabeled on the website. Because we already did our cash share. It's one cash share per year, and we already did an 8-year-old double distilled malt bourbon cask. Yeah.
You did 2 shares so far. You did the rum.
3.
No.
Rum, 20-year-old rum, 7-year-old pot still bourbon, 8-year-old double distilled malt bourbon. There's always, yeah. Okay. So will we move on to the last one, or yeah? So again, I just talking about that, taking that grain and putting it into that sherry butt that we had worked with for 2 previous releases. That's part of the bonder, and you've seen that through what we're doing. That's part of what a bonder should be doing and what we're doing. We're reusing the barrels that we have already worked with to create new whiskies and offer, because we know the profile they're going to give, so we can kind of say, yes, we want to reuse that. We don't reuse all of them. And you certainly don't reuse all of them for single cask releases, but when you find a particularly good cask that's working, you're just going to keep going with it. And they have a lot to give. You know, don't be put off by it has to be first fill. Like if you're talking to independent bottlers in Scotland, probably a lot of the barrels they're buying are 4th and 5th fills. The distilleries wouldn't sell them first fill or second fill or third fill. So that's why they're finishing everything as well. We're very lucky in it. We're spoiled really in Ireland. We're in this young burgeoning industry really. While it's historically been there for a long time, it really was, you know, this far away from being extinct. So we're lucky that we have this great supply of really fresh wood still. So don't be put off by second fill or third fill or all that. That's part, and when we're telling you it's part of our story. They're not third fill or fourth fill we got from somewhere else. We're using them ourselves. Well, actually, this one was a third fill we got from somewhere else. But yeah, that's the exception. So the next one is really part of that. And the label, as you can see, is very different. This is From Clare to Here, Volume 2. And you notice there's no age statement on it. It looks like somebody had a Sharpie and wrote a label and got it printed, because that's what I did. So the very first one was a release called From Clare to Here as well. The label colour was slightly different. And it was the same style of whiskey. It was double distilled malt from G&D 2016, and it was just 6 years old. And we had put it from bourbon into ex-imperial stout. And the stout, we had given our barrels to, or at that time, 1 barrel to Western Herd Brewery in County Clare. And this was during Friends. You know, and Bridger Kelleher is he's a distiller. He's the head brewer there. He's from Montana originally. Seemingly he turned up. If you're listening, Bridger, I don't know. Seemingly he turned up one day and never left to work. He just was randomly passing by, and now he has kids and everything in County Clare. And he was making really great imperial stout, but he was telling me, and some other nice beers, but he was telling me he was struggling with some casks. And I said, well, like, a cask is not a cask. Like, you have to, if you want to get something out of it, you should try and get as fresh a cask as you can. And what are you doing? What are you trying to do? So I said, I felt double distilled malt casks would be really good for imperial stout, because that's quite a robust stout already. So it needs something to kind of give it a bit more. And it worked really well. We got it back, and then we refilled the same double malt back in, the same style, not the very same, because we had regauged that, refilled all that already into other stuff. And this is during COVID, left it too long. Like, not terribly too long. Like, it was still very nice, very rich colour had come from it. Lots of flavour. It was quite bitter at the end. The stout was really after taking over, okay? So we had just gotten some rum casks in, literally as I was trying it. And I pulled one over, pulled the one out, tested it, said, it smells good, and I just transferred it into it. And I wanted to do was bring back a bit of sweetness into it. And then that was in there maybe 2 months, and then we bottled it as From Clare to Here. And From Clare to Here story is very simple. We were bottling, Tom and I, a business partner, and he works with me at the warehouse, and he said, he's from Texas. He said, how far is Clare from here? So I, of course, I know a song. I don't know it, actually. I know that line. Don't ask me to sing it. And I said, it's a long, long way from Clare to Here. And then I said, will we just call it that for a bit of fun?
In Ireland, so not long enough.
Yeah.
3 times longer.
Yeah. You'll be all right. You get over it. You will. You'll be grand.
We're good natured people.
Yeah.
So how long is the stout in the cask?
So this is the new version. Yeah. So this is an 8-year-old. This is the same distillate, but 8 years old. So this is the oldest double distilled malt from G&D that you can get. This is it. March 2016 they distilled it. And this is we've done 2 of those this year. One was cash share, and now this one. But we put it into stout for 5 months. This time we sent down 4 barrels. We did a few last year too, but we left them all as just stout. And we did some different releases. And this one then I refilled into rum agricole this time. So the previous time it got a Jamaican rum. And that then became the Jamaican rum cask that we used for the bill fill, right? And then now that cask is filled again with malt again. This time with not peated malt, but with a peat rum influence and stout.
Like a diagram for everything.
Yeah, don't even. I threatened to do all that at the start, and I went, no, it's too complicated. I'm going to revolutionize the industry. And sorry, that's not it. This is it. And so this time we put into rum agricole, different type of rum completely, and we left it there for 16 months this time in rum.
16.
So yeah.
What was the order of casks?
So a bourbon stout rum.
There's a lot of molasses on it. It's from the almost with the molasses. And
Yeah, it's a complete mind melt, this whiskey. Like that's why the label is just the way it is, because I was like, I don't think this is like, when I tasted the first one, it's like, this is not like any single malt I ever drank in my life. I didn't do tasting notes. Yeah, sorry. Can't do it.
How long do Western Bird use those barrels to have the stout for?
4 or 5 months.
So it's not a huge amount, but
It's a lot for what they're doing, yeah. Yeah, like a lot of places they do 2 or 3 months.
oh, it does time of year, sure.
It does, but I'm not. Yeah, but for them, they're not looking for that. With the beer in the whiskey cask, they're not really looking for. What you're looking to do is get the influence and up the ABV. So it goes in about 8 and it comes out at 10. Whereas with whiskey, you definitely want more interaction. Yeah.
Can we buy the beer? Like, do you know what stout was in there? Like the name of the stout?
Yeah, it'll be their Imperial Stout. It'll come out shortly. We did a release with Carry Out Killarney where we did bottled stout as well. Yeah. What do you think? It's 54%. Yeah. This is just such a fun whiskey. It just doesn't stop giving you notes. Layers of flavour.
Everything leathery, dark cherries, nuts, waxy, molasses, as you say. It's just a flavour bomb.
Yeah, isn't it?
It's brilliant.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, so the previous release only went to Belgium and Germany with US back labels on it. Belgium and Netherlands with US back labels because I was supposed to ship it to the US, then COVID hit. Second time, and shipping costs were mental, and I just went, I'm not. The guy that was supposed to buy it, and I said, well, I'm not paying for the shipping, so I rang up my Belgian importer who I just shared a sample with over in Belgium a week earlier, and he ordered a barrel of it. So can you do it again? I was like, yeah, of course I can do it again. Didn't know if I could or not, but and then he just took them in, and it kind of has a bit of a cult status over there in Belgium and Netherlands. For people, they love it, and there's when is the next one coming? Yeah, I doubt it. I'd be shocked. So this is 168 bottles only. That's the problem when you're doing all these. 168. Yeah, so like when you're doing all these recasts, there's a lot of losses. But the next whiskey in those casks is getting a good benefit. So that's on sale right now on the website. QR code. Off you go. And there, huh? I like if you want to wait, I can send one on to Kevin by Monday.
Yeah, you said that you give them the cask and they can beer in it for 5 months.
Yeah.
Does the beer sit in it for 5 months or
Yes.
for a couple of cycles?
No, it's one beer. It's barrel aged stout. Yeah. Yeah.
It's ramen juice as well.
Yeah, and I think you're going to rename it Baltic Stout.
I lost my feeling in my legs.
And actually, there's a doubt. If you ever get bottles, it was bottled. It's going to be canned this time, but they bottled the previous releases, and I've kept the bottles. Like I've kept a few of them, and like they're out of date, but like it's like wine inside them. It's getting better and better. And you drink it. I drink it in a wine glass. Actually, it's like a big. You wouldn't want to be drinking too many of those. They'll. I would suggest sharing one with somebody else.
Hang on a second, given the 60-something% whiskey, you're saying share a bottle of beer?
Yeah, but like you're getting 500 mils of the beer. Like it's, yeah. But I love this, and this is kind of the essence of what we want to do and what we're doing. It's kind of like I hope tonight I've showed you that the experimentation, and we're not doing like maple casks or anything like that. Like we're trying to use traditional things that would always be used, but present them differently, or bring back things that were done previously and haven't been done for a long time. And you can see the difference. Like the whiskey, people are kind of saying they're tired of source whiskey and stuff, but and look at the other bonders in Ireland. And I think I was speaking to the guys here earlier. Like look at Louise in JJ Corrie, or lads in Two Stacks, or Morris O'Connell in Killarney, or Jack Rhines. People who are controlling the process on their own bond and bottling. Like Ecklandville obviously have their own, but I'm leaving distilleries out with this bonding side of things. Nobody is doing the same thing, but we're all using the same stuff, and it is all different. And I think that's it's really great to see that, and it just shows you it can be done. There's nothing wrong with sourcing whiskey.
It's Scottish people have been doing this forever. Like you have a ton of independent bottles.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
This has been my second last question.
Second last, I like that.
You've obviously, as a bonder, you've come across a lot of different types of hats, right? Like different types of woods. So recently, I came across a person like Neil Sad, who is releasing a German exclusive of many different types of woods. So there's cherry wood, and
Kirsch, apple, or cherry and apple, and mulberry, rowan.
I'm going to be in Germany next week for a month, so I'm going to try and pick up one. But what would, some of those woods, are very specific, or they haven't been tried before.
Well, somebody tried at one point to do them, I'm sure.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you realize oak is the best. That's the.
What would be maybe would you be able to give a very quick synopsis of the differing?
So, well, what you're talking about there is a client of ours who we supplied the whiskey via G&D, and they supplied barrels of their own choosing, and then from Germany, and they were like apple, cherry, mulberry, rowan. There was one more, and I can't get into too much detail on it, right? I look, whiskey is subjective, and you should make your own decisions on that. That's very yes.
You're lost the road, and that's why it keeps focus on and it keeps your spirit in.
Yeah, it's hardwood, and that's something they experience a lot, and I'm sure Neil would mind me telling you that they experienced some terrible losses, and we had to empty them, or they would have had none left.
It's experimentation.
Yeah, it's great to see it.
Very early days of the Irish Whiskey Society. Do you remember the Connemara Bog Oak?
There you go. Yeah.
Like downstairs, I can't remember the place we used to. Very early days, it used to be the hotel over near Bog's. We brought a bottle with our spirit, with bog oak floating around it. They had gotten to a point where they could make bits of the cask. So it was an idea. So literally at the end of the tasting we had, it was back in the coolie days.
it was like, okay, tastings, just what do you think of this? And subsequent to that, they tried to make the barrel, they couldn't, and they made the heads and the staves, whatever, and that's what the kind of barrel was. So that's the very early days of like experimenting with what the hell does this oak do. So I think that's kind of further on the line. It's not going to be doing that for that you can use exactly, yeah. Couldn't make it cast.
Will we wrap?
Any other questions? Because I'm just going to wrap up. It's 9:30. I'm going to wrap up. Now,
well, if there's no more, just on the final note, as I said, it's an open invitation to HQ in Kilmac.
Don't tell them that.
Yeah, they won't find us.
Well, you'd be surprised.
Google Maps is terrible, and we don't have a big sign. You know, we're not. And just reach out on the socials or email or whatever. You can ask Kevin for more details. There's no problem. WhatsApp, whatever you like. And if we're around, we'll try our best to accommodate you. Okay. And if you're not signed up to our website, please sign up, because I guarantee you it will not get spammed. I am way too lazy, and I hate marketing. And and I would say sign up for cashiers, but they're all gone. And look, just support small craft operators, whether it's food, whatever it is, local. That's all I would say to you. Support people in your local area, and of course, buy your whiskey in County Waterford. And I really appreciate your attention tonight. I really enjoyed the taste, and it was one of the best groups of people I had. Really enjoyable, knowledgeable. It's really great to be here, and I hope I get to come back again some other time.
sorry.
It's okay, we'll do it.
What we always do at these events is we vote on what was your best one. So at home, if you or your not the best one, your favourite. It's subjective. It's subjective. So at home, please vote. But for number one, the 10-year-old. No, we're not accepting.
It's very unfair.
Number one.
You only have one vote, do you?
Yeah. Okay. The small batch.
Democracy.
Number two. 2, 4, 6. Not bad. Bill Phil. 2, 4. And the Amontillado 5. Whoa. 2, 4, 6, 8, 12, 13. Yeah. The 15-year-old Olorosso grain.
Oh, it's a time.
2, 4, 6, 8. Ooh.
No.
And lastly, Clare to here. Multiple. Oh, so 5. So I think it on the evening it looked like Amontillado shaded it by 2 votes, and the 15-year-old Olorosso grain was second. Yeah. So. None of those of which you can buy.
That is so typical of whiskey fans.
Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a great evening learning, about, vatting and blending and bottling. We have a lot of distilleries in, but it's such a change to get somebody so knowledgeable about something that always used to be done by publicans and they used to bond. So it was a brilliant evening. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Did you drop the mic? Oh yeah, sure.
For the team that put all of this together, put in all of the hard work, and have been working really, really hard to get all of the events together, particularly tonight. So please do give them a round of applause.
I think, are we fully sold out for the rum event next week? Okay, so sorry if you haven't bought a ticket, you can't buy a ticket now, but you should have bought a ticket earlier. We have other tastings though planned coming up down the line, so always keep an eye out.
I rum in the warehouse too.
Oh, we'll turn off the stream now as well, folks, so you can go drink your whiskey at home. Discount code was promised Monday for a discount code. The whiskey might be sold out.